Number three, you base your entire campaign on nationalism, and being security. And yet there is this liberated zone, so-called, an Islamic Republic, a terrorist suicide bomb nursery in the middle of Delhi. And what is your reaction to it? You're waving flags and campaigning around it as if it's some kind of a carnival, rather than sending in the troops to crush it the way it should have been crushed on day one. All right. You're not doing any of that. So what is the message that's going back to the voter?
Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Today I have the pleasure of Abhijit Iyer-Mitra after a long time. Abhijit, welcome to PGurus channel.
Jai Shri Ram, I'm sorry I've been quite sick, so I'm going to be coughing through the broadcast, and I'm very sorry about that.
That's fine. We can edit it out. We will do our best to make sure that it is clean. Abhijit, today I wanted to do something different. I wanted to set the clock back by 30 days and give you the keys to the campaigning of BJP in Delhi. What would you do?
Oh God. First of all, I mean, look, this is just a lay opinion. Remember, I'm not a great campaign strategist or anything like that.
But you are a youth icon. Go ahead.
Cool. Hardly a youth. I'm as much of a youth as Rahul Gandhi is. But anyway, look, hindsight is always 2020. See, the problem is you never connect the dots till the warning signs are there, but you never connect the dots till post facto, even though we knew at some point that the BJP wasn't going to get more than about 15 to 20 seats. Because every single pollster that I knew in private was predicting just that. 15 to 20 seats maximum. We didn't expect the kind of wipeout that happened, which is 8 seats. But it should have been there. And I'll tell you why. There were several reasons for this. First, you know, the regularization of illegal plots that they did, the sort of irregular colonies in Delhi.
Right.
You know, when I came back to India, I lived in one of those for about 2-3 months because I'd gone off an internet listing which showed a nice building and everything like that, marble floors and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, so I just book it through this online portal. And when I land up there, it turns out it's not actually in the colony. It's somewhere deep inside. I was completely traumatized having to walk through there and la-di-da and finally find it. But you know, the great thing is I learned what these irregular colonies are like. Irregular electricity, so lots of electricity theft. They're about, the normal Delhi floor is about 3, ground plus 3, so total 4 floors. Here it goes up to about 5, 6 because there's no real regulation. And here's the thing, you know, they're usually high crime areas with a few families that control most of the properties.
Essentially ghetto.
It is I mean, the ghetto part is fine, but see, the economic dynamic is what I'm trying to get into. It's a few families control all the properties, and most of the other people are sort of renters out there. Now, what happens is, and some of them are fairly affluent. That's the amazing thing. You know, there are lots of business executives and things, because Delhi rents are very high. You have all these kind of people staying out there. What happens when you regularize is, it isn't benefiting everybody. It's benefiting that small group of people who basically set up all these things. A lot of these people, well, have their hands in petty crime and la-di-da. And because, you know, crime is fungible, you're effectively okaying a sort of illegal enterprise in that sense. And then what you're doing is, once it becomes regular, even the rents start going up. So that becomes very problematic, that you have no fire hazard safety because you've already built over the height, your roads aren't broad enough, and so on and so forth. And you have rents going through the roof even there. So, you know, this was something that I already knew instinctively. This was something I wasn't happy about. And this I knew beforehand, number one. Number two, let's go to the things that we didn't know beforehand, which we should have probably picked up on. So I'm focusing on the problems first, then I'll come to the solutions.
Yeah.
One of the main problems, Shaheen Bagh, right? Now, the thing was, the problem was localized. If you were going on Barapula Bridge from, say, South Delhi to Noida, you would encounter it. If you're going to New Friends Colony from central South Delhi, then you'd encounter it. The thing was, everybody was focused on the taxi drivers complaining about it because of the extra jams that were coming about it. But I don't think anybody realized that the anger was as much with the government for not cracking down on it and reducing the irritation it was causing than it was with the people actually causing the irritation itself. So what happens is, number three, see, the thing with Shaheen Bagh was your entire campaign, your local councils, the local BJP councils are corrupt. You don't want to talk about their record because they have no record, basically. Number two, you have no administrative record in living memory because the last time you were in government was about what? A few 10, 20 years back or something like that, which young people don't remember anymore. And number three, you base your entire campaign on nationalism, and being security. And yet there is this liberated zone, so-called, an Islamic Republic, a terrorist suicide bomb nursery in the middle of Delhi. And what is your reaction to it? You're waving flags and campaigning around it as if it's some kind of a carnival, rather than sending in the troops to crush it the way it should have been crushed on day one. All right. You're not doing any of that. So what is the message that's going back to the voter? Number three, and this is something we did see happen beforehand, and this is a good thing. And I think Hindu voters should reward any kind of pro-Hindu behavior, which is that this person, what's his name? Arvind Kejriwal had started moving. And I know for a fact the AAP did a lot of calculation on this, and they moved away. Ever since that electoral defeat in the parliamentary elections, they moved away from this anarchist platform. They're taking a very, very pro-Hindu stance. So if you remember, he said, मैं कट्टरपंथी हिंदू हूँ, मैं राम टेम्पल का so I support the Ram temple, I am a hardcore Hindu. If you had given me charge of the police, I would have broken up Shaheen Bagh by now, in a day's time, something like that, or words to that extent. So you have Kejriwal, who's given up all his anarchism, who's given up his Hindu phobia, at least publicly, hunting with the hares hunting with the hounds and running with the hares is all fine. The point is, he made more pro-Hindu statements than the BJP did during the campaign. He was harsher about Shaheen Bagh in that sense. Not one leader of the BJP came out and said, I will break up Shaheen Bagh today. That is what Arvind Kejriwal said, right? So basically, he undid any kind of Hindu consolidation, Hindu polarization that had happened. So he removed the negatives, as you'd say, in the American sense of that word. And what he did was, your basis then is what? Economics. The economy isn't doing very well. And both these guys are basically socialists giving you freebies. So all up, one guy is more pro-Hindu and says if he's given the police, you'll break up the protests. And he has a record of governance. Now, you may laugh at it, the education and the Mohalla clinics and all of that. I don't know about the education. I don't have a high opinion of the Mohalla clinics. But the point is, it's the voter that votes that has a high opinion of him, right? So all up, all good. How did the BJP... Now, let's come to the solutions for the BJP. What in the world was the BJP thinking? You've got a leader in Arvind Kejriwal who very successfully decoupled himself from... He said Modi center mein, Arvind Kejriwal state, Delhi mein, right? So he's decoupled it. He's not made it Kejriwal versus Modi. He's made it Kejriwal for Delhi. And what is this guy... What is the BJP's response to it? Nationalism, Shaheen Bagh. That doesn't work. You know, you've sold that narrative once. After 8 months, you want to sell that same narrative again. It really isn't going to work. And that's what's happened. Now, all the tactical mistakes that they did on the ground. One, no chief ministerial candidate. I don't know who gave them that advice, but you need a big personality to take on Arvind Kejriwal. They didn't do that, right? So this was my net analysis of the result. And, the thing was, like I said, a lot of it was foreseeable, but Shaheen Bagh, how it ended up playing out, I did not foresee.
Now, so what you're saying is BJP got it wrong from the messaging point of view, but let us say that there is a renewed thinking in their camp that they need to have a good face that can take on Kejriwal. Now, who would that be? I'm just give 2 or 3 names. I don't mind if we can bandy some names. After all, we are not the ones making the decisions. We can always suggest.
Look, I wish everybody's making fun of Manoj Tiwari right now.
Right.
Remember, Manoj Tiwari actually led the BJP to the local council victories and all of that. Remember?
Yes, yes.
So, it's very, how people forget. At that time, he was like, yeah, Manoj Tiwari, youth leader. Now everybody's making fun of him. I don't like this kind of nonsense, at least have some intellectual integrity. But the point was, at least project Manoj Tiwari, project what you have as the chief ministerial face, or Dr. Harshvardhan, project him as the chief minister. I don't know a single, and that tells you the level of outreach that the Delhi BJP does, that I don't know a single Delhi BJP leader.
Interestingly, even right from the 50s, at the time that Janasangh was formed, the Delhi, used to be ruled by Janasangh. They used to have a Janasangh mayor. And therefore, the Janasangh has morphed itself into BJP today. And yet, they are now finding it very difficult to claw their way back into power. Now, the municipalities, I think there are 4 or 3 or some number, they all are now being controlled by BJP, right? Is it possible that people saw the rule there or the misrule there and figured out that BJP perhaps is no better than AAP?
Well, look, I don't really know the answer to that. I can only speculate because, see, the Delhi voter isn't very vocal, right? They keep even now, today when I went to 3 different conferences today since the morning, right? In all those 3 conferences, not one person was willing to tell me who they voted for. You'd suspect that at least after AAP has won, they'd come out and say, yeah, man, we voted for AAP or whatever, even if they hadn't. They're very reticent to talk about who they voted for. So it's hard to actually meet somebody who and are willing to, and who's willing to have that conversation with you. But I can tell you one thing, the thing that I sensed the most was more disgust with the BJP than it was any great support for AAP. Number one. Number two, in Lutyens Delhi, in that sense, what I noticed with the more vocal voters, but remember, Lutyens Delhi tends to be very vocal, and it tends to be very, anti-BJP, the new age, yuppie, liberal types. But, what is amazing is it's the government colonies, inhabited mostly by Babus, whose kids and the Babus themselves seem to have voted for AAP on one hand, and the cantonment area where the army folks live. Army folks and their kids have also voted for AAP, which should tell you there's something quite disturbing about that trend out there if they're willing to, look away from what AAP has been in the past. On the other hand, I'm kind of happy in a sense that they actually rewarded good behavior of AAP.
Well, what is it that they did not like about BJP?
I honestly wouldn't know because nobody's actually told me that in very uncertain terms.
So, here's the conundrum, guys. Kejriwal, remember, I think this is for Mr. Modi, Amit Shah, JP Nadda, and all the other political bosses. He does have a degree from IIT Kharagpur. However questionable his means of entry may have been, the point here is that knowledge does rub off on you. The guy has a trick or two up his sleeve. The spokespersons he sends to all the shows, they, wrong or right, they stick to their guns, and they somehow come off as if they have a lot of spunk. That spunkiness is something that the BJP, I don't see that. I could be wrong about this. Also, AAP is viewed as a young party. That is something that is because of the age of the chief minister plus the crew that he gets on the ground. I remember talking to one of his volunteers, a 20-something girl, and I said, okay, I wrote this book. I showed her my book, The Rise and Fall of AAP. And I said, you should first read this before you should start telling people what AAP is all about. You're only looking at something, whereas the whole foundation of this party has been something else. And she just looked at some cartoons inside the book, gave it back to me and said, no, I believe in Kejriwal. I mean, it's such a blind devotion. And I was like, I tried for 2-3 minutes to try and say, look, there is a world outside this ecosystem that your boss has built. And you need to know that before you just jump headlong into this. And I was hinting some other things about Mr. Kejriwal that she probably was either hearing and letting it go the other ear. That's okay. I mean, it's everybody's options to do whatever they want. The takeaway from this is, if BJP was not serious about winning this, then why did they expend so much political capital on it? 3 chief ministers, bunch of cabinet ministers, a bunch of MPs, going from mohalla to mohalla campaigning. What is it that they wanted to do then?
Look, 2 things. First, I really don't know what they were thinking, because, for somebody that fine-tuned their message in a national election last year so well that they increased their tally despite a flagging economy, to this Delhi election where they seem to have misread absolutely everyone and everything from day one, I really don't know what they were thinking. It's almost as if they wanted to lose this election. Which, there have been conspiracy theories floating around that that's what Modi kind of wants to do to Amit Shah, because, if you prove that this is the 3rd election Amit Shah's lost, by the way. There was Jharkhand, there was Maharashtra, and now Delhi. But these are just rumors, and Delhi, every time somebody loses, you have all these conspiracy theory rumors coming out of the closet. But that's
wait. Sorry.
No. One second. Let me finish. So that's one thing, conspiracy theory out of the way. But 2, let's address these young people in AAP, right? The kind of interaction you had with AAP is the kind of interactions I used to have with AAP. We used to call them AAP-tards in those days. Till about 2, 3, maybe 1.5, 2 years back, right? That entire set of people somehow seem to have been sidelined. And there's a whole other layer of AAP leadership, young, very young people who you can have a great conversation with over a scotch or a rum or a coffee or whatever. And they are completely in tune with course correction. Now, understand what has happened. Kejriwal lost 2 high-profile elections, 3, including the Lok Sabha election. He also lost Goa and Punjab, where he tried. And what's happened here is, imagine, after just 2-3 elections maximum, he's course-corrected and hit the sweet spot, right? This is now a pattern that he can probably replicate now in other states, where you just take a positive message saying, we have done governance, no more opposing everybody else. On the other hand, look at the Congress. How many defeats has that youth leader suffered now? 50, 60 plus to last count. He still can't course correct. His sister, who we were hoping would turn the party around, does not seem to be able to course correct, because she's taken on the exact same clowns, the NGO types, who were advising him onto her advisory committee. Now, see, the point is, you understand the difference between a government and an NGO. A government thinking is different. An NGO is a non-governmental organization. they don't win elections. I used to admire, Sharmila, I still do. But the point is, when she contested the election, you saw how many other people felt that AFSPA was such an important thing. She got what, 1,200 votes or something like
I
that?
know. Yeah.
So remember, so this is where this man is going, where youth leader is taking the Congress, is exactly where NGOism took the CPI, CPIM. They went from the same tally, 44, 50 something, down to zero. And I think this is where what Kejriwal has done and what the young people around him now, if you notice, even people like Raghav Chadha, who used to be quite irritating, they've toned down their irritation quotient quite significantly. Right. So there's clearly even a personal course correction happening, and there is a party course correction happening, which is very, very important. I can deal with that. I incentivize good behavior like that. All right. As opposed to the Congress, which never ever seems to learn its mistakes.
Okay, so when you rudely interrupted me, but that's fine. I was merely trying to point out. No, I'm sorry. Yes, but you interrupt my interruption. That's okay. I'm just making fun here. What I was trying to say there was, technically, this was not Amit Shah's presidency. It was JP Nadda's presidency. Although we all know who's really running the shots in terms of running campaigns and so on and so forth. So here is a takeaway. The inner party democracy, thanks to Mrs. Indira Gandhi or maybe even Jawaharlal Nehru, who appointed his own daughter as the president of the party, is completely gone in India. We are a democracy on a very, very superficial level. Whatever be the faults of the American electoral system, the primaries are a very, very robust process, and that helps people separate the grain from the chaff. You're noticing that the first primaries that played out in New Hampshire. And this is needed because leaders are not going to be born. I mean, there are only a few that are born leaders. They have to go through the system from the ground up. Only then they can keep that ear to the ground. Today, many people feel that the Prime Minister Modi is not able to really listen to what the Aam Aadmi is telling him, and every defeat is actually a message, and someone has to listen. You can hear stuff, but if you can't listen, and you'll never learn. But Abhijit, as a final takeaway point, what is it that Delhi BJP unit needs to do? There's been a lot of talk about infighting amongst various groups and so on and so forth also.
Look, I'm not too sure Modi doesn't know what he's doing electorally. This man has won a second election. He's losing states, that's fine. But he did win a second election with what? 303 seats just to the BJP. We haven't seen those numbers in 30, 40 years. So he's pulled off a feat that nobody's managed to in a very, very long time. Maybe he's losing it slowly. Because, once you get more and more you build this placebo of invincibility around you, you start losing it. And I think Delhi that way might have come up as a wake-up call for the man. But from what I hear, he just doesn't want to listen to any counterpoint of view. So there's nothing much we can do about that. That said, what should the Delhi BJP do is what the central leadership does, because there is no such thing as the Delhi BJP per se. The whip command comes from the top. Delhi BJP has almost always been under the thumb of the central leadership in that sense. You look at it right from the beginning, from Sushma Swaraj, Sahib Singh Verma, all those people. It was always very much a central high command run unit out there. And the solution to it doesn't lie in the state unit per se, unless you want to give it autonomy. It mostly lies in the central leadership, which is the duumvirate of Amit Shah and Narendra Modi.
And they hold the keys to the kingdom. Thank you very much, Abhijit. And that was a very interesting conversation, and a conversation that perhaps should have taken place in the BJP headquarters. I don't know if it took place or not, but here it is from two people who are not members of BJP, who are just merely wanting to see robust electioneering. And any time you want a thriving democracy, you want a strong opposition. With 8 seats, BJP doesn't cut it. Thank you very much.
Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram.